Are you looking forward to getting back to Tassie for a third week in a row?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we like playing down there. Our form line in Tassie, Launceston and Hobart, has been pretty solid overall. In the first couple of weeks out of the bye, we've really set our sights on that consistency of 4 quarters. So yeah, we're looking forward to getting down there again. I think this week, last week we had our members being able to get in for free. I think this week, all kids I think under 15 are free. So we'd love to see a big crowd down there.
What makes you a better team at Lunston, do you think?
Not sure. I think that the aspects that we've been working on is that level of consistency, the ability for us to play well together. I'm not sure if it's the size of the ground. I don't think it's too much different. Not sure whether it's the atmosphere, whether there's some home ground, sentiment for us. We do enjoy the way that we tend to play down there. But yeah, it just seems that synergy really sits really comfortably with our group.
So actually one more Tassie one before I'll let you go, mate. There's obviously a bit of momentum about the state's push at the moment. How have you seen it from behind the scenes or on the sidelines?
Yeah, I was on radio earlier in the week, Brent, and as a Tasmanian, I'd love to see the state have its own team. Representing the state myself at the old Teal Cup base and then being drafted from out my home, I'd love to see the opportunity for the state to have its own. And from a club perspective, we'd never stand in the way of a Tassie team coming in. So I think it'd be exciting. I think it'd be well supported. From our side of things, we love the sentiment that we get when we come back there. There's been some debate around our role in Hobart, but we do want to continue to invest down there and build our network down in the homeland.
Thanks, mate.
David, there's obviously a pretty young group, final 8-9 weeks of the season. Now, I've seen a lot of sides over the past few years in this position get the tired legs back into the year. How do you keep the motivation up with the group in the last couple of months of the season?
We've sort of broken the back end up a bit, Riley. I won't go into details what we've done or how we're going to do it, but I think it's important that we keep striving for that continuous improvement. There's certain elements within our game, and I've mentioned it, and it's a bit ad nauseum, I understand, but the process, and certainly internally, the process becomes really important about what you're looking to achieve, each and every week. So our level of competitiveness, our energy in the first couple of weeks has been really high, been really, really consistent, and that's what we're chasing. And we know that the outcomes of the first half of the year to the second half of the year look completely different. So it's a little bit more than just week to week. There's sort of little portions and groupings that we've sort of started to set ourselves, and we're probably in the middle of one of those groupings once we came back, little block of time.
I saw Jacob Edwards at training this week on school holidays. How do you sort of manage him throughout the back half of the year, and what does his program look like when he does go back to school?
Yeah, so first of all, there's a fair bit of assessment that we need to go through, where his body is, the technical pieces of what his core strength looks like, what he's like in the gym, his fitness levels. We've been doing some work both internally this week. We've been able to get him into the club, which has been hugely exciting to see him, sitting in the front row of the meetings with Charlie Ham. And so then I think just as a result of what those levels are, we'll then just take it fairly quietly, I think, with him, mate, to be honest. We've committed to his school, and that's fine, so we'll continue to obligate that. And at the same time, if and when we can, when it's appropriate that he's at the right level, then we'd love to get him into our VFL structure.
And what does it look like for Jared Polec and Jed Anderson? I read earlier this week that they're coming back through VFL over the next couple of weeks. How long do you think before they're ready for senior selection again?
Polly starts this week. I think Jed's maybe a week or two away, so that's exciting. Well, look, part of it is going to be form. I think we're at a point where we're not going to just necessarily throw our senior guys back in because they're there. They'll need to still deliver some performance at VFL. The VFL had a really good performance last week, got up over Coburg, almost in the last kick of the day. So there's some internal pressure now building on selection, which is what you need. I think that's something that we've missed a bit earlier in the year. So certainly if Jared, plays really well this week, then he comes into contention. He's an experienced campaigner. But at the same time, if guys in his spot are playing well, then it's hard to just, automatically shift them out. So I think all our guys are pretty clear that they're going to have to fight for their spots.
David, how buoyed are you by the performances since the bye against GWS and Brisbane? And I suppose how far off your best footy do you think you are at the moment?
Yeah, good question, Caddy. How far off? Well, I guess when you're at it internally, day to day, week to week, we're just striving to continue to get better. We would have liked to have taken more advantage of the third quarter inside 50s that we had. Our connection probably wasn't as good as it could be. Our last quarter, we didn't compete on the ball as well as we'd like to. So I think there's some huge upsides on our game. I'm not sure I could put a percentage on it because there's probably no ceiling for us at this point in time. Again, when the groups come back, they've been really clear on what they wanted to achieve, for the back end of the year, and that was driving even harder, standards, training levels, and that there's no doubt that our training performance correlates into our game. So our training's been of a really high standard, and that's been driven by the players.
This week, obviously against the Suns, you go in a lot of people's minds as favourites. It's a position that you probably haven't been used to this year. Do you set those expectations on your group as well internally?
No, we don't. Us is very much about our guys are still, our group I think is still learning what our process looks like. We're getting better at understanding that. We're getting better at understanding the systems and the mechanisms within our game, how to activate them, when to activate them, the type of defence we want to play at a certain point in time. So our focus will be clearly on those elements of the game. And the reason is, I think for you, your guys benefit from the media perspective. I think as soon as you start to look at results, you can easily get caught up into looking at the end and you miss the little steps along the way. So that's why we sort of push hard on the process, is to just let the result take care of itself and get the little things ticked over as we go. That's the most important element. So, and that way I think if you're able to keep an eye on what's going on in the process, if you miss something, you're able to go back and rectify it really quickly, particularly from a game sense perspective.
Does that make it more promising, given what's happened since probably the Essendon result, that incrementally over the last sort of 3 or 4 games, that there has been improvement within a pretty young group, even though the results maybe haven't been there, but they've shown a bit since that result for them to turn that around themselves? Yeah,
well, I think that's the exciting bit, isn't it? It's the growth that we're seeing, before our very eyes, and we still know that there's some bumps in the road, ahead, Riley. We're not saying that it's all going to be smooth sailing, but if our energy and our effort is consistent, then we know that what comes with that, the outcomes that we can deliver are better. You can continue to strive for those improvements on certain elements of the game. As we're getting better at one part of our defence, then we can actually go towards building the next layer as we go through. That's been exciting, to be able to add some of those layers post the bye and see them come to fruition really quickly. That's been really exciting internally for us. I've mentioned it to publicly before, but our fans and our members should know that our players have got a great thirst to improve and get better. And they're really on point with what that now looks like.
David, you talk about some of these good problems to have over since the break. It's been really promising to see in the senior side, but the VFL as well.
Yeah.
To be getting in some more positive results, which has been really good to see over the past fortnight. Will Phillips, Eddie Ford, really banging on the door. It's just a selection headache that you kind of want to have at the moment.
Sure do, Mitch. You're spot on, mate. And even the week before, where we had to sort of have a little bit of a hybrid 12v12, we were actually able to get our guys out there. So the Essendon game, the Coburg game, Christian Cherry got an opportunity from his form. R2 is also knocking on the door from that side of things. Paddy Walker had his best game for us last week. So there's no doubt that Ford and Powell, Phillips particularly, knocking on the door with where they're at this point in time. So that's been good. Lockie Young was the sub last week, so again, he's another one of our younger recruits that we've got in. So he's putting his hand up again for this week. So yeah, the internal pressure, as we said, for selection really helps. There's no doubt.